That's fine. There's probably some fucking duds on here that people knew were gonna be duds.
Oh, I could tell that movie was ass by the trailer. I already knew.
You got your list all together?
Do 5 most disappointing movies for me.
Yeah, and I figured there was, and I did already hit record. So,
okay.
I'm Eric,
and I am Michael.
And this is the Silver Screen Banter Podcast, and today we're going to be hitting on some movies. Last week, obviously, we had we had our top 5 perfect movies, 10 out of 10s, and this week I thought we would go the opposite.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not that these are the 5 worst movies ever. They're the ones that were most disappointing to me. You know, like I was expecting something to be fucking awesome, and I was given a shit sandwich. Like, here.
Exactly. I was talking to my fiance Chrissy about this, and I was like, so there's kind of some weird criteria, because if we're just talking worst movies ever made, you know, we can get into a whole different list of movies. That is a different list. This is movies that I was hopeful for, but also had some expectation to be at least okay.
Yeah.
And did not deliver on either of those, like on the hopes or the expectations.
Right.
So, and that, you know, that does make for an interesting list, because, you know, some of the things on my list, some people might immediately hear and be like, I had no hope for that movie. And that's cool. that's fine. That's fine. There's probably some fucking duds on here that people knew were gonna be duds.
Oh, I could tell that movie was ass by the trailer. I already knew.
Exactly. Exactly. There's probably some duds on here that people already knew were going to be duds. I didn't. I had like I said, a little bit of hope, a little bit of expectation of them being at least okay. Yeah. I have a list of 5 with 1 honorable mention.
Okay. I have 2 honorable mentions, but I can cut that down to 1. That works.
You got 2? You know what? I do have another honorable mention. I took it off because I think it might get me some like hate, but I'll put it back on there. So,
all
right. Actually, you know what? Never mind. We're good. It won't give me some hate because I got the proper answer here. All right, so you want to do it the same way we did it last episode? You know, start with the honorable mentions, and
yeah, I think that was good. That felt good.
Yeah. Only last time we started, you know, with good and got to perfect. This time we're starting with okay and getting to worse.
Oh, neither of my honorable mentions are okay. They were both disappointments too. And if the list had gone to 7, they'd probably be on there.
Okay, I'm wondering if we're gonna have. We had no overlap on our perfect movie list. I'm wondering if we'll have any overlap on our worst list. You think we will?
I don't know, man, because you know, you and I are, 10 plus years apart, so expectation on some of these movies, they're older, because I was growing up. I don't want to give too much. Let me just say, I don't think that we'll have overlap. We'll see.
Okay, so if you're going older movies, we definitely won't have overlap, because I'm going to be honest, the oldest movie on my list is from 2008.
The oldest movie on my list is I didn't put the years next to 2 of these, but they're somewhat recent. So somewhat recent, 2020-ish, down to 1989. So that's the span of my stuff. And the fact that you said 2008, I'm thinking we may have the same movie, but we'll see.
Maybe. You know what? Well, let's just go ahead and jump into this shit, man. You started off last time. I will start off this time. And I'm going to start off with a movie that is fairly recent. It's one of the newest movies on my list, and that's The New Mutants. Came out in 2020. This could be one where no one had any good hope or good expectations, but I did. Don't know if you are familiar with New Mutants at all.
I am not.
Okay, so New Mutants was like an X-Men spinoff.
I figured it was.
Yeah, and it was, I mean, in my opinion, it had Maisie Williams, it's got Anya Taylor-Joy, it had Charlie Heaton from Stranger Things in it, like, and it had some mutants, some characters in it that we don't see in any of the traditional X-Men movies. So I was really excited about it, right? Because I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, we're gonna get something different. And this, of course, isn't from Marvel. I mean, it is obviously Marvel, but it's not like a Disney Marvel production. It's a Sony, I believe.
Okay.
But man, they just shit the bed with this one. It was nonsensical in terms of plot. The characters were just kind of throwaway. They tried to do some stuff that just didn't work. Anya Taylor-Joy's character is just straight up racist. It was just honestly stupid. It was just
Yeah.
stupid, and I was really disappointed in it. And I feel like it had hope. That's the thing with everything on my list. There are components that give you hope with it, you know.
You know, it's funny when we did the one last week after someone said a movie, the response from the other person was usually like, "Oh, that was so good." And
Mhm.
you know, now I feel like saying, you know, hearing you say all that because, you know, these movies that we're about to talk about kind of hurt our feelings. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like, ah, buddy, it'll be okay. You know, like that's like I feel bad for you, man. You know, like those are the things that like the feelings that I get from these movies. Like,
Bro,
look,
did you see the menu
the menu.
that came out this year? The menu with Ray Fiennes and Anya Taylor-Joy, Nicholas Holt.
Did I see that? I don't know if I
Oh,
saw it. It
okay.
sounds familiar.
It's the one where they go to that restaurant out on an island, and it's like a really bougie restaurant, and shit starts going down. Like, I don't want to spoil anything if you haven't seen it. So, if you're not getting it by now, I don't think you've seen it because I mean that's really all
I've
there is in terms of plot.
Yeah, I have not seen it. I'm skimming through the trailer right now. Yeah, I have not seen that. No.
Okay, well, there's a joke that I want to say. What you just said. Watch the movie. Pay attention to John Leguizamo's character. And what you just said, there's a point in that movie where I'm like, you know what? I kind of understand what he means at this point. At this point, but you're right, man. These movies, like you watch them and like you're so hopeful, and it's just like that really it kind of ruined my day, you know.
Yeah.
Like you invest, an hour and 30 minutes into these things, and it just and more than that, like you invest the hour and 34 minutes or 30 whatever into watching it, but
Yeah.
you're thinking about it up to that point, and it's just a movie. It's not like it has that much bearing on it, but still it's kind of like that sucks. But yeah, there you go, man. I don't want to spend too much time on each movie or we'll be here forever. But
Yeah.
my first honorable mention is the New Mutants 2020, and just for FYI, 56 out of 100 audience score on Rotten Tomatoes.
God, I forgot to look them up again.
It's fine, dude. I got it up. As soon as you throw one out here, I'm going to be looking it up so I can give it to you.
All right, my first honorable mention, 2011's The Green Lantern, with Ryan Reynolds. I wanted a superhero movie. Finally, Green Lantern. I liked Ryan Reynolds, and I thought, you know what? This is gonna be awesome. And I'll tell you what, man. There was one thing in this movie that was awesome. What's the villain in the Green Lantern? His name.
Sinestro.
Yes. Where Sinestro looked dead on like he did in the comics. And I was like, wow, dude, that's amazing. But that was it, man. This movie was so disappointing for me. I'm a huge DC fan. So when we were getting the Green Lantern, I was like, he's going to kick it off. It's going to be awesome. It's Ryan Reynolds. And man, the movie just never went anywhere. Like it started, and it progressed and it finished. But in my head, it just went nowhere. When it was over, I was so disappointed, and I had my hopes up for that one. Yeah. It had the ability to be good.
That was my second.
Are you serious?
That was my second honorable mention. So yeah, I already had that looked up, so we're all good. That's the reason I knew exactly what his the villain was. I was like, okay, we're on pace here.
Yeah.
That one has a 45 out of 100 audience score.
Yeesh.
And man, you're absolutely right. Everything you just said, I, you know, it had the potential because I feel like Ryan Reynolds does have that cocky Hal Jordan feel to him.
Yeah.
Like he perfectly embodies the character from the comics in terms of personality. But the shitty CGI they used, um, I don't even know what the fuck was supposed to be up with Peter Sarsgaard's character. Parallax looked awful.
Yeah.
Sinestro Sinestro was the high point for the movie,
Yes.
which is unfortunate. Uh, but yeah, dude, it was just that was my second honorable mention. So we can go ahead and go right back to you.
All right. My next honorable mention is 1992's Alien 3. So
Really?
I loved Aliens so much. And the way that they off-screen killed Newt, uh, landed Ripley on that, prison island or that prison facility, and uh, Bishop was pretty much non-existent in that movie. It was just like you gave me. Now Bishop I can understand, right?
Mhm.
But you made Aliens about, you gave it, Cameron gave it that happy ending to where they escaped. And a character like Newt, who was such a big part of Aliens, to kill off screen like that, it kind of, I don't like to think about Alien 3 when I'm watching Aliens for the simple fact that it's like I like that they get away, and they didn't. And it just felt like if you were going to do that in a movie, show me something. And then
Mhm.
how long is Ripley going to be able to have an alien inside of her and not have it burst through her? Like she had that whole movie of
Mhm.
this thing inside of her and it was fine. No issues, no nothing. Like everyone else who has an alien inside of them, they got about 5 minutes of screen time,
Yep.
and it's over. But Ripley somehow was fine up until, that alien came up to her, and hissed in her face. Epic scene, by the way. I love that shot. The CGI was horrible in most cases with the aliens. And I understand that CGI was young, but with it being that young and looking the way it did, they could have easily did some of the things they did with that bad CGI with practical effects.
Yeah,
And I
like they
felt
they
like,
should have just stayed practical.
yeah, and I felt like they blew it, man. Like I understand following James Cameron is probably not easy.
Nope.
But come on, guys. Like I was really disappointed in this one. I was looking forward to this one. My father and I loved Alien and Aliens. So when this was coming out, shit, man, I was 14 years old. So perfectly conscious of having an opinion of a good movie and a bad movie. And I just looked at my dad like, what is this? What are we doing here? This feels nothing like the other ones. And he agreed. He was like, yeah, this sucks.
Well, it's not just him and you that agree. It's 250 plus thousand people. For reference, the first Alien audience score is a
Mhm.
94 out of 100. The
Okay.
second Alien, 94 out of 100. The third Alien movie is literally half of that at
Oh,
47 out of 100.
oh, yeah.
So,
It really hurt my feelings. Actually, I have three. I didn't realize I have three honorable mentions. I only do those two. One of them was one of them was just terrible too. And disappointment. Wow, God, I had three
you know
here.
what? You throw it out there, man.
I'll
What is
just
it?
throw it out quick, and I won't talk long about it. It was 1997's Batman and Robin. That was super disappointing for me.
That's a
Really
guilty
wanted.
pleasure of mine.
Oh, I wanted that to be good. I really wanted that to be good, and it wasn't. And yeah, it was disappointing for me. And
Uh,
I won't talk long on that one.
I, you know, I just want to throw it out there. as I said, it's a guilty pleasure for me. Even George Clooney, even Batman himself agrees with you. And if you want to talk bad, I don't think there's any movie we're going to mention today that has this low of a score. Because out of 250,000 plus audience scores,
Yeah.
it's got an average of 16% out of 100.
Oh dear God, I didn't know it was that bad. I mean, this one always makes me laugh because of the movie Fanboys, where he's like,
I love Fanboys.
yeah, Fanboys is so good. And he's like, when he talks about Schumacher putting nips on Batman, it's just like, what was that about? Like, why did he do that?
No one fucking knows, man.
It's just like, yeah, this one was 97. I was a senior in high school. We went as a group of friends because the soundtrack was freaking all over the place, and new Batman movie coming out, and it was just like, you know, of course there were some of us that were like, this looks awesome. You know, me, I'm sitting there like, what are we doing here? Like, what is that Schwarzenegger? Like, what is he doing? Like, this is so bad. It's so bad.
It's a hell of a good pick. And like I said, man, you're not wrong. And I haven't, obviously I don't know what your scores are going to be, and I haven't looked up all the scores for mine. I usually look them up as I say them, but I don't think we're going to get anything else today that has that low of a score. So, but we're gonna go ahead and kick this off. This is officially the top 5, and I'm gonna shit on these movies, man. I just want everyone to know that. And as I said, mine are mostly pretty recent, the oldest one being 2008. And I'm going to start with the one in 2008.
Okay.
And that's going to be M. Night Shyamalan's The Happening.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you've seen this.
I have not.
Okay. This movie it holds a very dishonorable distinction for me. This is the only movie in my damn near 34 years of life that I have ever walked out of the theater for. I did not finish this movie, and I will not ever finish this movie unless I'm being paid to do so. It is so bad.
Oh, man.
And I was hopeful because it's got Mark Wahlberg. I love Marky Mark. It's got Zooey Deschanel. Love her. M. Night Shyamalan. I'm actually a big fan of M. Night Shyamalan's movies. I think a lot of his movies are underrated. But like, if you start listing off, like, I love Devil, obviously The Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
I love Glass. I love
The Sixth Sense was the first thing that came to mind when you said his name.
Yeah. Devil, I think, is very underrated. I don't know if you've ever seen Devil, the one in the elevator.
I don't think so.
Oh man, go check out Devil.
Okay.
Like, you want a good M. Night Shyamalan movie, man, tension filled. Love it. But so I'm a big fan of his. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to go to the theater, go see this movie. The acting was some of the worst I've ever seen in a studio film. The story was stupid. Like, there wasn't any twist or anything. It's essentially, man, have you ever seen The Happening?
No.
Don't watch it, and I'm going to spoil it. I'm just going to say it out there. The fucking nature is mad at everyone for how we're treating the earth. So they release these pheromones that make people kill themselves.
That sounds problematic.
That's the whole fucking premise of the movie. That's the whole premise of the movie. Dude, it's so stupid. It like there's some inventive stuff. Like, one of the ways someone commits suicide is there's a riding lawnmower. They literally turn it on and set it to like automatically go, and they lay down in front of it. Like, there's some creative aspects like that, but overall the movie is just god fucking awful.
You don't expect a director like that to do something like that either.
No. And it's just, yeah, I'm going to leave it there. Like I said, 2008, The Happening, it has a 24% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes.
Ooh.
Yeah. That's close. I think that might be the closest we get to Batman and Robin. I'm not gonna lie, dude. I'm getting upset talking about these. Like, I'm like, this shit pisses me off, man.
Well, luckily for me, Not a lot of them are fresh wounds. So in time, wounds heal.
Well, I want to be honest, dude. It's probably just this one. The other ones on the list, there was something that I did find a little bit of like enjoyment in about the movie.
Mhm.
This is the only movie that there was literally nothing I liked about it.
Yeah.
It was a complete waste of time. The other stuff, the other ones when we get there, they don't anger me as much. But this one, dude, this one pisses me off. Sorry. All right, man. On to you. What do you got? What's your
My
number?
number 4 pisses me off the most out of, well, I wouldn't say the most.
You mean number 5?
No, my number 4 when we get to that one.
Oh,
We still
gotcha,
have number
gotcha.
5. Number 4 is still a sore subject when I talk about it. But let's go with number 5 first, and we'll get to number 4. My number 5 is 1990s Rocky 5. Coming off the heels of Rocky 4 and Ivan Drago, and probably my favorite Rocky movie of all time. I mean, the soundtrack, dude, I'm sitting here wanting to talk about Rocky 4,
Bro,
because it was so awesome.
it's so good.
But Rocky 5, man, that was another movie that I went to the theater to see. Dude, Rocky movies for me growing up, they were always on the TV. I was always watching Rocky. And when Rocky 5 came out in 1990, you got 12-year-old me that's, at the hype of his Rocky love, goes there and watches Rocky 5. And literally, that's a movie I wanted to walk out of. Like, it was so bad. And I stayed through the whole thing and I watched it thinking it was going to get better and better. And then it ended. This one for me was so disappointing. I can't even.
I was hoping it was going to get better, and then it ended.
I'm serious, man. Like, look, that was my experience at Rocky 5. I'm sitting here like, any minute now, it's gonna kick up, and
Holy shit! It's the credits.
He's gonna get back in the ring. No, he didn't, and it was just like, oh god,
my ring's outside.
Yeah, my ring's outside. Yeah, I know. And you had
lose, you're finished. You lose, you're finished.
Tommy Morrison in there, is Tommy the Machine Gun, and oh god, dude. This one I wanted to love it, and I did. I wanted it bad, and it was so disappointing for me. Rocky 5, 1990.
Rocky 5 is just a little step up from The Happening. Happening was 24 out of 100. Rocky 5 is a 31 out of 100 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Damn.
And it's one of the unique ones where the critics and the audience agree. Like at 31% for audience score, 31% for critics as well.
Even the critics are like, yeah, this is a pile.
And this is another one where I'm going to be honest. I don't hate this one. Like it's a little bit of a guilty pleasure. Like I know it's not good. I want to be honest. I know it's not good, but I have fun watching it every time. So yeah, man. Like you said, I know it's not good, but I do have a fun time watching it. I never think about skipping Rocky 5 when I'm watching the Rocky series, which I do often, man. I fucking love Rocky.
But I loved Rocky Balboa when that came back.
Dude, Rocky Balboa was so good.
I know, I loved it.
And I love the Creed movies too, dude.
You want to talk about a redemption story? Rocky Balboa was a redemption story for me. It was just like, it had been some years. It's like, I'm gonna go when it came out, and I did. And I had a smile on my face.
Some hurting bombs.
Yes, dude. He snaps his neck first. Let's start building some hurting bomb. And then that whole spiel he has with his son, where he talks about life.
That's what cowards do, and that ain't you.
Yeah, dude. It's so good, man. It is so good. I love Rocky Balboa, and it makes me happy to end on that and not talk about Rocky 5.
I gotcha. All right. Okay, so my next up is so I'm realizing I've got 3 comic book movies on here because my next up is 2015's Fantastic Four. How do I start this? I love Marvel. I do. Obviously, we've had a little Marvel fatigue in recent years, but at this point, like I said, this was 2015. This this was like peak Marvel. This wasn't Marvel, exhaustion. This was peak Marvel time.
Well,
And
it was peak MCU.
peak MCU, exactly. But, obviously Sony, I believe it was, that owned
Yeah,
it at the time. They had an opportunity to do something on that level,
they did.
and they fucked it up. Like this is a phrase I'm going to use a lot during this episode. They shit the bed. They had $120 million budget.
Oh,
They had $120 million budget. They had Miles Teller, who's a fantastic actor. They had Michael B. Jordan, fantastic actor. They had Kate Mara, Jamie Bell, Toby Kebbell. They had so many things going for them. It's honestly baffling how they could fuck this movie up as much as they did.
yeah. I turned it off. I think I got about 30 minutes in, and I shut it off back then, never to have watched it again. I love superhero movies in general, whether it be DC or Marvel, and I was just like, this kind of sucks. So I guess that'd be 2009 because it was a DVD. But yeah, I turned it off. I don't blame you there. The only reason it's not on my disappointment list is I never even finished it.
It's once again, don't want to spend too much time talking about it. However, this is the runner-up for lowest score now.
You said, I'm sorry. I got my years confused because I'm looking at a year right here in front of me. That was 2016, not 2015. Or not 2008.
Yeah, this is 2015. 2008 was the happening. So this is 2015. Batman and Robin had a 16% out of 100. Fantastic Four has an 18% out of 100. Ooh. And the critic score is even lower. It's a 9%. Bro, this movie, it's a
bomb.
It's a bomb. Like,
yeah.
Dude, with that cast and $120 million and the rights to one of the greatest comic book team-ups of all time, how can you not, it baffles me.
Yeah. I mean, that's not just a bomb. That's like an atomic bomb. You know what I mean? Like, dude, a bomb's like a 35 or a 40. That's a freaking atomic bomb right there, man. That's epic proportions.
So yeah, my number 4 pick, 2015's Fantastic Four.
Right. Yeah. Moving on to number 4 for me, I'm going to take a step into the horror realm of the slasher variety. Oh. And I am going to go with Halloween 5. This movie is still aggravating to me on how much they dropped the ball with Halloween 5 after Halloween 4. I think Halloween 4 was very good, and I felt like in Halloween 5, they didn't even try. I mean, for the love of God, there's a scene with Michael under a tree kicking rocks. How do you do that? How? How do you do that? Like, it literally, I'm sure you know the scene I'm talking about.
I do.
Where they're walking through and you see Michael, and there's people there like, oh, that's just a grunt. No, it's Michael. Mask and everything. Looking at the ground, kicking rocks. Like what are we doing here? Danielle Harris was one of the best parts of Halloween 4. She's a mute, through half of the movie, if not more. Ellie Cornell, another one of the best parts of Halloween 4. You totally just dismiss her character and kill her off in a way that is just...
Killing Rachel was so disrespectful.
Disrespectful is a very good way of putting it. The way I was going to put it was like a tragedy. You had a team of people, of characters. You had 2 characters that people were ready to invest in because they were already invested in Halloween 4. Halloween 4 did really well. Halloween 5, man, when I talk about slashers and you want to talk about shitting the bed, I feel like Halloween 5 shit the bed for the simple fact that there are bad slashers out there, but they're usually surrounded by other bad crap. This was coming off of a good storyline. And it just you're talking about you introduce a character that we have no idea. Michael gets broken out by a gangster from the 40s with a Tommy gun. They've got him in a cell on his knees with his mask still on. Like, this is just terrible. And somehow his mask is changed. He gets shot down into a hole, and I guess they shot him so hard it changed the entire look of his face. It to me, this is the most frustrating. I'm not saying it's the worst Halloween out of the Halloween's, movies, but it's the most frustrating to me and the
Yeah.
most disappointing.
And that's the distinction I was trying to get at the beginning. Is like, yeah, there's worse movies than this, but these movies, like, if you think about it, this movie still had Danielle Harris, it had Ellie Cornell, it had Donald Pleasance.
Yep.
Don Shanks was a damn good Michael, in my opinion. Like, it had what it needed to be great.
It had the tools, it just didn't have the ability.
And that's for me, that's what makes this list. Is these movies aren't just bad.
Yeah.
They're bad despite having all opportunity to be good.
Yeah. And I mean, if you notice that's a popular theme with my movies, is they are sequels to really good movies.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of bad reviews for this one. I'm wondering, what was the budget on Halloween 5? Budget $5 million. It's not terrible for a Halloween movie. That's pretty damn good, considering how the first Halloween was what, like 380,000.
Yeah,
but
I'm more curious what Halloween 4's budget was.
Halloween 4. Well, before we get to that, I just want to point out the audience score for Halloween 5 higher than I imagined it would be. And that's 36 out of 100. 36 out of 100 audience score.
Still not great.
No, it's still not great. Let's look at the budget for Halloween 4. And I will say, honestly, and I think I know the reason Halloween 6 isn't on here. Maybe you like Halloween 6, but for me... For me, Halloween 6 would have made the list before Halloween 5. But once again, the reason Halloween 6 is definitely, in my opinion, a worse movie. But the reason it doesn't make the list is because I had the expectation it was going to be bad after Halloween 5.
I was going to say the same thing. Like, there were zero expectations for Halloween 6 for me after Halloween 5.
Gotcha.
It's like people are like, well, I really want to know who the Man in Black was. It's like, I don't even care. Like, I went to the theater for this movie. As a kid, I come out, my dad, like, this is crap. Like, how do you go from this to that? I'm 11. I'm 11 years old, bitching about a movie that I'm not even old enough to go into by myself. Like, that's damn sad.
Yeah. Just so you know, I looked it up. The budget for Halloween 4 was the same, $5 million.
So you're telling me there was a chance?
Dude, like I said, that's what makes this list the way it is the fact that these are bad movies, but they had every opportunity. They had everything on their side to not be bad.
Well, they wanted to rush it because Halloween 4 was good. They're like, all right, get another one out there.
Yeah. All right, man. So, my next, I think I'm on number 3, right? We have number 3? All right.
Number 3.
My number 3 is from 2017, and that's the Dark Tower movie. Are you aware of the Dark Tower?
No.
Okay, so Stephen King, I think it's a collection of about 8 books in the Dark Tower series.
I've heard of that, yes.
It is a huge world building series that is amazing about these gunslingers in the Dark Tower, which guards, and the gunslingers that guard it. It's very expansive. It's pretty awesome. And if you're a fan of those books, you've been waiting a long time for a movie. And once again, had Idris Elba, had Matthew McConaughey in the two leads. Matthew McConaughey playing the villain, the Man in Black, and Idris Elba playing Roland the Gunslinger. You had those two people, which are both, I mean, Matthew McConaughey is a fucking Oscar winner. Idris Elba, huge star, very good. It had a $60 million budget, and they completely shit the bed. It was awful. They tried to cram so much shit into one movie versus taking a step back. Like, it's fucking 8 books, 8 or 9. You don't try to cram that much into an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And it was awful. It was god awful. Everything about it. Yeah, man, pisses me off. There's not much more to say about it. It pisses me off. You have, like, there was some comedy in it that I appreciated, like when Roland comes to the real world, like in the world he lives in, like guns and ammo they're more rare. Like it's hard to get, but he's a gunslinger. That's literally his thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's some comedy in it because when he comes to the real world, he meets up with the main character. I want to say Jake is his name. He's like, I need bullets. Or he's telling Jake, like, I need bullets. You know, our guns or bullets as rare here as they are in my world. And Jake's like, you're gonna like Earth, and like, because you can just get fucking bullets and guns anywhere. There's some comedy that worked, but overall, it's kind of agreed upon amongst many to be the worst Stephen King adaptation of all time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Eesh.
However, the audience score was a little bit more kind to it. Still not good. A 45 out of 100.
Yeah, still not good.
That's still a bomb.
Oh, totally.
That's still a bomb. Like I said, you got a $60 million budget and your box office gross is only $50 million. Yeah. You got a bomb on your hand.
Yeah.
So there you go, man. 2017's Dark Tower.
Yay. All right, number three. For my number 3, I'm going with 2008's. See, I had a 2008 too.
Oh.
Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. This is
on my long list.
Yeah, this one right here, buddy. You got to think that the one before this was Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Iconic.
Now they waited some time, you know what I mean, between the two movies, and time was not kind. Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. This was a one-time watch for me. That's all I needed.
Same.
You know, I felt like it was absolutely dreadful. You know, like it was terrible. The fact that we're bringing aliens into a Indiana Jones movie, and that wasn't the only thing, you know, but it was a big part of it. Like, this didn't feel like Indiana Jones. It didn't look like Indiana Jones. It just, man, another movie theater experience that I wish that I never had with Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I'm very curious to where this lands on the charts that the information that you're looking up.
You're gonna there's some weirdness with this one. Not even gonna lie.
Okay.
Because if you're talking about audience score, it kind of lands where you would imagine it would land. Where, if you had to guess the audience score out of 100, what would you say?
45.
Okay, it's a little higher than that. Audience score is at 53%. That's not the weird part. The weird part, out of all the movies we've listed so far, this has the most critic reviews, which makes sense because it's a blockbuster. It's Indiana Jones. It's a blockbuster. It's got over 300 critic reviews and it's certified fresh at 77% by the critics.
I can't even keep a straight face through that.
Bro,
Oh,
it's
God, this movie
certified
was
fresh
terrible.
by critics.
Oh, and this is why.
And once
Oh,
again,
God.
man, like you had what was the fucking budget? It's an Indiana Jones movie, so you know the budget's got to be fucking huge. $185 million.
Yeah.
You got Harrison Ford,
Yep.
Shia LaBeouf,
Yep.
fucking John Hurt, Kate Blanchett, Ray Winston. Wasn't he in there?
I don't remember.
Dude, you've got
What's who directed it?
Directing, I think it was Spielberg.
Yes, it was. I was waiting for you to say it.
Holy shit, dude.
Now you want to know why it got that review from the critics? There is your answer. It's not that it was a good movie. It's the fact that that name is attached to that movie. I think that George Lucas had something to do with it too.
Well, I think he gets a writing credit, but I think it's like characters based on, isn't it? Did he actually write it? No, maybe. No, dude, I think he actually did write it. Yeah, holy shit. How? So once again, you've got fucking George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, $185 million.
Yes.
Harrison Ford, Shia LaBeouf, Ray Winston, Kate Blanchett, and you put out this steaming pile of garbage.
So why did the critics rate it so high? The names that are attached to it, dude, not the fact that the movie is any good whatsoever. That's why. But yes, that is my number 3. Talk about disappointments, man. I literally wanted to cry.
That's 77% certified fresh by the critics. That's all right. Okay, man. We're on to number 2. Number 2 for me is the most recent one on my list, and that is 2023. It's a direct sequel to a very iconic movie by William Peter Blatt. What's his name? William Peter. I forget his name. Exorcist Believer.
Yeah, that was disappointing.
Exorcist Believer, and you seem a little underwhelmed by that pick, and I understand that. That's fine.
No, like I agree.
Man, I was so hopeful for this movie. I truly was. And obviously, after people's reactions to Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends, the idea of David Gordon Green writing and directing an Exorcist movie was a little iffy. However, I was paying attention to how he kicked off his Halloween franchise.
Right.
And Halloween 2018 is top 3 Halloween films of all time, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's my second favorite Halloween of all time.
It's number 3 for me. I'll give it number 3. It is so good.
Mm-hmm.
But so I was paying attention to that, and I'm like, he may not stick the landing, but his first Exorcist movie is gonna be good.
Yeah.
And dear God, was I wrong.
I joked about this because I was asked, Michael, how do you feel about David Gordon Green directing The Exorcist? And I joked and said, well, as time tells, the first one will be good. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I said. Jokingly, but at the same time, there was some realism behind it. Like, look, especially coming off of whether you liked Ends or didn't, it was controversial. He wouldn't want it to be controversial again. He would put his heart and soul into this to show him like, hey, I can do this. And man, you have to remember, this is recent for me because I just watched this movie for the first time about 4 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, man, I understand, your frustration with this. Probably more so with this than all your other ones, because especially if you're a big Exorcist fan.
And if you're a horror fan, you're a big Exorcist fan. I mean, even if you don't like those movies, like,
right.
Like, uh, Steven, our buddy over at Craven Some Scary, he's not a huge like religious horror fan. Even he acknowledges how good The Exorcist is, like how significant it is in the world of horror. So yeah, if you have any appreciation for that and how significant the original, by the way, it's William Peter Blatty. I was right. I was just I could not think of his last name for some reason. But yeah, if you have any any admiration or acknowledgement of how iconic the original is,
Mhm.
you, you're gonna be upset with Believer.
Yeah, I agree. I do.
And it had it had a $30 million budget, which is not large compared to some of the other movies that we've seen on this list, but even still, the lead girls, gave good performances. I
They
think
did.
they just weren't given good scripts. Like they weren't given anything like good direction, good scripts, whatever you want to chalk it up to. They weren't given good enough uh, information.
Yeah, material.
Yeah, material. That's the word I wanted to use. Leslie Odom Jr. He's amazing. Like no reason he shouldn't have done well. I actually really enjoyed Jennifer Nettles. I thought she did a good job. There was once again, you had David Gordon Green, which we have seen. We just talked about it. Can direct a damn good horror movie, and he can write a damn good horror movie. We know The Exorcist. We know there can be good Exorcist movies, and you pull out this.
Yeah,
it's not it had the potential, all the necessary elements, all the pieces were there, and they just did not fall into place.
yeah, I agree.
For this one, audience score higher than I imagined, of a 59, almost passing. If you're going
Almost.
by college, grading scale, it's almost passing. Uh Interestingly though, the critic score 22%.
Ooh.
So there you go. That's my number 2, Exorcist Believer from 2023.
Oh yeah. Yeah, man, good pick. Really good pick. Number 2 for me. Um, let's go into a galaxy far, far away. You know I always do.
Oh, I did
The
not imagine there'd be Star Wars on here.
2019's The Rise of Skywalker. Where do I begin with this movie? There is so much about this movie that makes me want to puke. You give a big let's start with the Comic-Con reveal that this movie's coming out, and you hear Emperor Palpatine laugh. It causes excitement, but yet confusion at the same time. It causes people to be like, I gotta see he in Return of the Jedi. Vader threw him down a shaft. How does he survive? You get the opening sequence with this movie, and it's like, it's about on par with the last one. And the Emperor's talking, and they force feed him that line, that famous line from Revenge of the Sith, where he says, where he talks about the dark side of the Force is a pathway, some would say unnatural, right? One of his iconic lines from Chancellor Palpatine in Revenge of the Sith, force fed through the Emperor to be like, for people to be like, I see what you did there. It's the same guy. I'm telling you, it's the same guy.
Mm-hmm.
Then we find out that Rey is being trained by Princess Leia. Princess Leia, one of my beloved characters of all time. I love Princess Leia. But we find out that not only is she a Jedi, but she's more powerful than Luke, and she trains for 5 minutes and beats the hell out of Luke Skywalker on what's the name of the Ewok planet? It's slipping my head. Either way, Endor. Thank you.
Yeah, Endor.
So I'm like, this is kind of tough to believe, but I'm gonna go ahead and go with it. The thing that got me, dude, the first thing that made me realize I was in a tailspin of epic proportions with this movie was Rey mastered a healing ability that never existed. that would have changed the whole course of Star Wars, the whole reason that Anakin Skywalker, the chosen one, turns to the dark side was to learn this healing power that not even Palpatine could do, that no one could do, because it was unsure if it was even real. And Rey's like, oh, hey, that snake's got a wound. Let me heal it. He could have saved Padme, never changed to the dark side. And you're going to tell me that this girl who's had like 5 Jedi lessons is going to be more powerful and wise than the chosen one in the Skywalker saga? It's just like Disney is pumping this crap into my face yet again. The end of the movie was underwhelming. You know, you had perfect opportunities for all the old Jedi to show up like all the Sith did, and you missed it. The story itself was just, it was god awful. But yet they kept bringing back some old stuff to throw in your face, like the Death Star, like Endor, you know, like here it is. And then you finally kill off the third one. Boy, you killed all 3 of them, didn't you? The 3 heroes of mine growing up, you had Luke, Leia, and Han, the trio, and you killed off the last of them. Now, I understand that Carrie Fisher died, but it was just like the perfect ending to what Disney did to my childhood. You are no longer allowed to have that childhood to where heroes can live happily ever after. They always have to die in some form or fashion, you know, outside of the great things that they did. And this movie to me literally made me upset to my stomach.
Yeah. This is, you're gonna be kind of blown away by the scores on this one. I'll tell you that right now. But I will say this is not a good movie. There are parts, there's like one little part, and it's the dumbest thing. Like there are tiny little, when I say parts, I mean like moments, like seconds that in random movies that get me. Like I see them, and for some reason, like it just triggers something in my brain. It's like, that's cool.
Yeah.
And you know how Rey and Ben, at this point he's Ben, right?
I guess. Which part are we talking about? And not in the beginning, he wasn't.
No, but toward the end. It's toward the end. You know how Rey and him were able to like basically like force move things to each other in different time and places? The point where he's coming to like save her, he's no longer got the mask or anything like that. It's full on Adam Driver at this point.
Yeah.
And
Ben.
It's full on Ben. He's running in to save her or to help her, and he's surrounded by like, I don't know, 10 or 15 different
Knights of Ren. Yeah.
Yeah, and he has like, he's completely unarmed, but then he like his arms behind his back, and she like whatever that, I don't even know what you call that. It's not like telekinesis, because she's not moving it in a physical plane. She's moving it in like a dimensional plane, you know?
Yeah, they made it up for this.
And he pulls it, like his hand is empty, and it goes behind his back, and then it comes out, and he's got like a full on fucking lightsaber. There's a split second where everyone's like they're looking at him, and they're like kind of confused and amazed, and he just kind of does this little, and no one, you know what? I might add this little second in the podcast video just to show the expression.
Oh, I know it. He does like a little head nod with the shoulders up.
Yeah, like a little head nod, like, yeah, bitch, I can do that. Let's go. Yeah. And I don't know why, but every time I see that split second, I'm like, fuck yeah, I like that. That's the only time during the movie where I'm like, fuck yeah, I like that.
Let me throw one more thing out about this movie. Do you remember when 3PO's having his mind wiped so he can read the key to the Sith planet, or
he can read the language?
3PO, what are you doing? Taking one last look at my friends. First of all, you just met half these people like 5 minutes ago. You don't really know any of them. They've treated you like total shit at this point. And now you're going to take, those are your friends, bro? The only friends you have ever had in your life was Leia and freaking R2 and Anakin when he was a kid. Everybody has always treated him like crap, man. Taking one last look at my friend. Now, if you said that about Han, Chewie, Luke and Leia and R2, I get it. But you just met these people, dude. You literally just met these people, and half of them you just met on this trip.
I will
Good God.
say that line worked in the theater I was in though, because everyone was like, "Oh." You could tell the line worked, and maybe it was just initial, like no one had time to like really digest. Wait a minute, these are his friends. He
I
doesn't really.
literally in the theater said he doesn't know any of them.
Yeah, see, where the theater I was in, people bought into it.
Oh God.
But yeah, man, getting to the controversial part of this.
Oh, don't you say it, Ray. Don't say it. Don't say it. There were so many people screaming in the theater I was in. Don't say it. When she said, "What's your name?" and she said Ray, and she said, "Ray what?" There's
Skywalker.
people like, "Don't say it. Do not." And she did. And the boos in the theater I was in. I was proud.
Really,
For that
all
moment.
like all out booze.
Boos. People were throwing popcorn. People got up and walked out.
None of that happened in my theater. It was kind of an anticlimactic thing to just like, okay, and that was it. That's not the controversial part I was talking about though.
Oh,
The controversial part I was talking about were the scores. Critic scores. This officially has the highest number of critic ratings of any of the movies, which makes sense. Once again, it's one of the biggest franchises of all time.
Mhm.
It's got 527 reviews for an average of 51% out of 100
Oh,
for
wow.
critics.
Yeah.
The audience score has 50,000 plus verified ratings with an average score of 86 out of 100.
Anytime you're messing with Disney, buddy.
Yeah. Well, I would understand that if that was the and I don't know, man. I think there are people, and actually, you know what? I don't even think it. I know there are people who will love something because it's Star Wars. Like they have such an affinity for Star Wars that they will not accept that anything is bad. Or they accept that it's bad, but they still love it and are going to rate it highly.
Yeah. What a terrible movie.
So, and that was your number 2, right?
Yeah.
Holy shit, I can't think of what's going to be worse than that, but
Yeah. And there's one.
all right, man, we're to my number 1. And this is a movie we've talked about before. And as a matter of fact, this is a movie we talked about briefly during our 10 out of 10 podcast.
I think I know where you're going with it. It's
It's
horror.
not really.
Oh, okay. Then it's not what I'm thinking of.
It's 2016. There are horror elements, but if you look at it like broken down on like IMDb, action, comedy, fantasy.
Okay.
2016, directed by Paul Feig, writers Katie Dippold, Paul Feig, Ivan Reitman.
Oh, I know where you're going with it. I already know what it is.
It is,
Well, I hope I know what it is. It's 2016, you said?
2016.
Oh, I know what it is.
What is it?
Ghostbusters.
You're damn right.
As soon as you said Ivan Reitman, I was like, this is Ghostbusters.
Yep. I was saving that credit for the end because I'm like, as soon as I say Reitman,
yep,
he's gonna know.
Yep.
2016's Ghostbusters. Here's the thing. As we heard last week, Ghostbusters to me is a perfect movie.
Yeah.
And I don't think the second one, I don't think the sequel is too much of a downslide. Anyway, so like I don't think the sequel falls too far from the original. I think
it was fun.
Yeah. I think it's damn good. I had such high hopes for this movie. And a lot of people will say, and this is a controversial movie to talk about because if you try to bash or talk critically about this movie at all, people come out of the woodwork and will just say stupid shit like, oh, well, you just hate it because it's, an all-female cast or it's a, female-led movie. That's horseshit. They're part of the reason I was so excited about it. Melissa McCarthy and Kristen Wiig worked together in in my opinion, one of the funniest movies of all time, Bridesmaids. It Bridesmaids to me is one of the best comedies of all time. It is so fucking hilarious. Kristen Wiig, Kate McKinnon, Leslie Jones all killed it on SNL. I'm like, you got Melissa McCarthy, Kristen Wiig, Kate McKinnon, and Leslie Jones leading a Ghostbusters film. It's gonna be funny as fuck.
Yeah.
Like, it's gonna be awesome. And it just wasn't.
Yeah.
It just wasn't. Like, they completely dropped the ball on this movie. It, and afterwards there's been a lot of critical reviews of this movie. And to a point where, and like I said, if you do talk critically about it, you are almost immediately branded in a negative way that you're discriminating it against it because it's a female-led movie. And it was so bad to a point. I don't know if you remember this, but they released a box set of Ghostbusters. It was Ghostbusters 1, Ghostbusters 2, and Ghostbusters Afterlife. And the director and writer of this one basically went on a media campaign like, well, you're just not including our movie because it was female led and people aren't ready for that. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me right now? They did such a disservice to Ghostbusters franchise.
Yeah.
Like, you want to remake it, fine. I don't have a problem with that. I don't think it's going to work. However, if you got something new and fresh to bring to it, I will watch what you got you bring to me. Okay. They didn't have anything good to bring to the franchise.
No.
And like fart jokes. Throwing this out. Fart jokes are very lowbrow humor.
Yeah.
You get a chuckle out of a fart every once in a while. One of the biggest laughs from this movie was a fucking fart joke. And dude, I don't.
Here's the bad thing, and I don't really, talk too much about this, but the bad thing is this was not a good movie. The bad thing about it is when you say things like you don't like it because it's an all-female cast, right? When that's not the case, that makes it harder for when those issues really happen and then people don't pay attention to them because it's screamed every 5 minutes about everything bad,
Yeah.
that fit those parameters. So somewhere, something was crapped on because it was, a female, whatever. And people were just like, they say that about everything. I'm not going to believe it.
And it was true that time.
And it was true. Right.
Exactly. So, there's only so many times you can scream, you can cry wolf before wolf really happens and people ignore it.
A tale as old as time, brother.
Exactly. That's
what I mean?
What happened here. And this, this is just not a good movie.
It's not.
And it, once again, common thread for me, and I've said this about majority of them, it had all the pieces to be a good movie.
It did.
You got a funny cast. You've got a good director, good writer. You've got a budget of fucking $145 million. And you dropped the ball. How are you going to bring the original Ghostbusters in for cameos and like do nothing with it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
and them like Bill Murray showing up as not Peter Venkman. It's just like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
This is the first time Peter's been in a Ghostbusters anything in forever, and he's not Peter.
Yeah. Yeah. And having fucking Ray show up as Leslie Jones's uncle, I believe it was, who owned the Hearst company.
Yeah.
Right? That's who he was, right?
I believe so. I only saw it once, and that was in 2016. And
Yeah, like Ernie Hudson showed up for like literally a second at the end because um he was, yeah, like he was the uncle of Leslie Jones's character who owned the Hearst company, and that's where they got the Ecto-1 in that particular movie. And man, I don't know. Like I said, there were parts that I did enjoy, like fucking there was some comedy that worked, but it was one of those things where they throw out so much comedy that yeah, eventually one or two is going to land, but you
Yeah.
got fucking 150 to 200 that don't.
Yeah.
And Chris Hemsworth character, he was mildly entertaining, but he was also just stupid.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it was funny for a little bit, and then the shtick got old
It got very old.
very fast. Yeah.
But yeah, man, that's my number one. Like I said, it had all the pieces it needed. Good cast, good crew on it, a big budget. This is one where the scores are higher than I initially thought. Audience score is around where I thought. It's a 49%. However, the critics, once again, certified fresh, 74% out of 100.
Oh my god.
This is I got a feeling it's one of those where like, oh, we can't bash this movie because
We
we'll
don't
look
want to be called that. Yeah.
exactly. We don't want to be we don't want to be called out for discrimination for bashing this movie that even though it was bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, critics gave it a 74, certified fresh, but I don't believe it.
I agree.
So
I agree.
there you go, man. There's my list. My number one spot, completely shitting on a perfect franchise, not a perfect franchise, but a franchise that kicked off with a perfect movie. And I'm so thankful we got Afterlife to completely erase this mistake that
Yeah.
never should have been made.
I agree. I agree 100%. That was not a good movie.
All right, man. What do you got? What's your number one?
Oh, well, we're going to stay in the Star Wars realm. The last movie made me sick to my stomach. This one actually made me throw up. The Last Jedi. Star Wars, The Last Jedi. This movie was horrific. This movie was the worst possible thing that they could have made after The Force Awakens. Force Awakens was already pretty much a new hope with some shiny new bells and whistles on it, and different people. I get it. This was pretty much the worst. Whenever an actor comes out playing, especially Mark Hamill, who played Luke Skywalker, says that's not Luke Skywalker, that's Jake Skywalker. That's not who Luke Skywalker is, and they basically tell him to shut up or else. They stop him from saying it, which is the truth comes out. You know what I mean? Disney's Disney. They're that machine. We talked about that machine before. I mean, I hate to keep bringing that up, but this literally made a mockery out of one of the biggest heroes of the 80s for me, if not the biggest.
Yeah, and I've heard those interviews where you're talking about, and he's basically he's trying to be as diplomatic as possible.
Yeah,
because he in some of the interviews he's like, I'm looking at these lines and I'm thinking like, this isn't Luke Skywalker. He's like, but I gotta step back. He's like, this isn't my character anymore. This isn't my story anymore. This is theirs. I'm gonna do it the way they want me to do it because it's their story, and that's the end of it. He's like, but that's not the Luke Skywalker I started this journey as.
yeah, and I mean, there's so much, like, that's the worst of it, right? But there's so much that's even worse. I mean, Leia gets blasted into outer space. The ship they blow up the side of the ship and shoots her out into outer space, and she floats like a floating witch back inside through space. Something that would have instantly killed her as soon as she went out there, but she uses the Force and floats back like a flying witch. It was the dumbest thing I'd ever seen in my life. And you have the pilot Poe, right? And he goes up in his single fighter talking to a Star Destroyer like it's Family Guy, right? And they're not going to shoot him. Well, let's see what he has to say. No, come on. This is stupid. This is so stupid. it made me think of Blue Harvest. Well, not Blue Harvest, but the second one. Something, something, something Dark Side, I think was the second one.
Yeah.
I believe it was. And when he's like, don't worry, guys, Dax says he's got it. And Dax like, hell yeah, bitches. And he flies up there.
To suck some
like,
Dak.
Prepare to suck some Dak. And they just one laser blast, and he's gone. And that's all it would have taken from Poe. And that's what that reminded me of. And this movie, literally, you kill off the next big bad, Snoke, with no plan of action. And what is a trilogy. That's why Palpatine had to come back. Like, they had nothing else. This was Halloween 5 for Star Wars. You had, God only knows what the budget was for this, what they could have done. You brought Luke Skywalker back, something that everyone's been wanting to see since Return of the Jedi. And The Force Awakens doesn't count. When you walk up, you see him and he looks over at you and the credits come up.
Yeah. The budget for this was $317 million. Opening weekend, they made $220 million in this.
Hell yeah, they would. Everybody wants to see what happened next. Mm-hmm. Everybody, including myself. I was there. Literally made me sick to watch Luke Skywalker. What happened to him happened to him, and then he died. Let's not forget that they killed him off in the second one. You lose Han in the first one, you lose Luke in the second one, you lose Leia in the third one. My heroes of the 80s are all gone at this point. Done.
Yep. Dude, it was. I didn't dislike this one as much, to be honest.
This one was terrible.
Yeah, I didn't dislike this one as much. But once again, I'm not as big of a Star Wars guy as you. I'm just gonna be completely honest with that one.
To me, this is the worst Star Wars movie of all time.
Interesting. Yeah. For me, the worst Star Wars movie of all time would go to Rise of Skywalker.
That's the second worst of all time.
Yeah, for me, it would be Rise of Skywalker. However, the critics don't agree with you.
Go figure.
Critics do not agree with you. I will say, you want to talk about how Luke Skywalker should have been brought back? We already got it. And that was in Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Dude, when he
and I mean, back, I honestly feel like they did that to rectify this.
Bro, when they did that, and I love watching reactions, right? I love seeing reaction videos.
Mm-hmm.
And there was there's a lot of them, and there's a lot of people, your age.
Probably crying. Between
your age and my, literally in tears. Like, this is their childhood hero.
I was crying when that shit happened.
Bro, is that an X-Wing? Oh my God, it's an X-Wing. Oh, is that what color's the lightsaber? What color's the lights? Bro, you can tell. They've been waiting for this for so long.
Since 1986.
And when they see that green lightsaber, they go fucking crazy. That's how you bring fucking Luke Skywalker back.
Dude, when I saw the X-Wing, I'm like, they're not going to do this. They're not going to do this. You see the cloak, they're not going to do this. They're not going to do this. You see the green lightsaber, it's like, are they going to do this?
Are they going to do this?
And I didn't want to believe it until he took off the hood. And I said, oh my God.
Didn't even
R2 came beeping in.
Deep fake.
I didn't even care.
No,
I did not even care.
And then you started crying because fucking, I cannot believe I'm forgetting his name. Grogu. He started leaving because Grogu and fucking Mando took his helmet off, and you're like, oh my God, he's leaving. Like that father-son relationship there.
I'm sure that would have been sadder had I not seen Luke Skywalker, and I was already a mess because of that. That's the
thing. It's all compounding for me.
Yeah, it was just like, dude, I don't even give a shit. This is Luke Skywalker, and dude, I immediately rewatched it. when it was over. And it was a whole nother set of emotions because I knew it was Luke Skywalker. And that's when the tears really came, because they gave him Darth Vader's Rogue One moment in the hallway. They gave it to Luke and Mando. And it was just like, he didn't do it the same, but it's arguable on who did it better. He still did it, dude. It was just fantastic.
And speaking of Rogue One for a second, because and we got to get back because we haven't even thrown out the scores for Last Jedi yet. But
yeah,
the prequel trilogy, obviously, we're trying to. I don't think they were trying to humanize Darth Vader, but giving us the Anakin backstory, how he got, like, what he was before he was Darth Vader. I'm not gonna lie, made him a little soft. It's
he was
like
a kid.
Well, yeah, but I mean, even in Revenge of the Sith, when he's like fully grown, when he's getting there.
Yeah, he's still like 19 or 20.
Yeah, but you're like, when I think of fucking Darth Vader, he's one of the most iconic villains of all time, right?
Mm-hmm.
As Darth Vader. Then when I got his backstory, I'm like, okay, he's just a guy, he's just a guy. Rogue One came out. And those fucking doors opened. And you just hear that breathing, and all of a sudden the fucking entire tunnel is illuminated with red light from that lightsaber, and he just fucking destroys everyone in that tunnel. I'm like, that's the fucking villain I knew as a kid. That's Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Bro. Absolutely brought it back for me. Anyways.
Anakin's story is Anakin's story, and we could talk about that more later. Anakin Skywalker's my favorite Star Wars character out of all of them. But I mean, there's a lot of stuff to watch to get him there. The movies are basically certain points in that story, and
you
not
gotta watch
so
TV
much.
shows too.
Yeah, Clone Wars, Rebels. It really defines who Anakin was, his relationship with Ahsoka, more into his relationship with Padme, his loss of everyone that was ever close to him. I mean, he was basically Jesus. You know what I mean? Like, he was conceived without a father. He was basically conceived by the Force, unless you want to believe that Palpatine was behind that somehow. But that long story, long string of conversation.
We're gonna have a Star Wars podcast at some point. We will have a Star Wars where it's literally like, so Star Wars, and fucking kick it off wherever we want to go.
I mean, it almost have to be broken up, dude, because there's so much. Like, I hate it for people who have never seen Star Wars to try to tell them what to watch, when, and how. Just because it's so complicated at this point.
Yeah, it's such a you literally, if you're just coming into Star Wars, you need a fucking roadmap.
Yeah,
as a viewing, like, start here, go to these episodes. Okay, now go here, watch this episode. You need a map.
What's funny is I always tell people to start with the original Star Wars and go Empire Strikes Back and Jedi.
Yeah, well, that's what George Lucas says too. George Lucas is like, watch them in release order, because that's how they were meant to be watched.
Yeah, and not only that, it creates impact for not only the prequels, but for the Clone Wars and Rebels, because ultimately, as much as you love this character and as much as you know what's going to happen, so you're like, how do you go from this to this? And then you slowly start seeing things in the show that make the prequels make more sense.
And like the impact
I get it.
And the impact of, like, no, Luke, I am your father, doesn't hit if you watch the prequels first.
Yeah.
Like, so watch them in the order they were released. However, you can sprinkle in, like, the shows. Like I said, you need a roadmap. But
I'd throw Rogue One before A New Hope. I'd go Rogue One, A New Hope, Empire, Jedi.
I mean, yeah, but also, I don't know. I really love having Rogue One.
A little surprise, like, oh my God.
I really love Rogue One right after Revenge.
Yeah.
Like, go 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, Rogue One. Then, you know, if you gotta go.
Gotta go solo.
If you gotta go,
Solo's gotta be in there.
I was let down by Solo. It did not let down enough to make this list, but I
Yeah.
was let down by it. But anyways, man, once again, we'll have a whole Star Wars podcast at some point.
Yeah.
As for Last Jedi, the majority of the audience agrees with you because 100,000 plus ratings, an average of 42% out of 100.
Oof.
However, the critics, Disney, the mouse must have been blowing the critics because certified fresh at 91% for
So
Last Jedi.
here's the thing. You look at the great movies we talked about, and you're gonna tell me that critically this movie was as good as like Forrest Gump, was as good as The Dark Knight,
Better than Ghostbusters.
better than
Hold
you
on.
can't see it right now, but I have a big smile on my face and I'm shaking my head. Like,
yeah, it's fucking yeah. Hold on a second. I gotta look up the original Ghostbusters here. Original Ghostbusters, 1984. Okay, the original Ghostbusters is rated higher. It's a 95% versus a 91%. But you're gonna tell me it's almost as good
it's
as the original
in the
Ghostbusters?
ballpark. Yes.
Yeah, no. The original Back to the Future, critically a 93%. So almost, they're saying it's almost as good as fucking yeah. The math ain't mathin'.
No, it's not. It's not.
The math is not mathing there.
It is not at all.
So there you go, man. That's a hell of a good list you got there.
You too, buddy.
We did agree on one. We had one overlap on this one, and that was Green Lantern.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, this was fun in a different way.
It was different, but it was fun. Yes.
Get it, because here's the thing. You know, we both have individual channels. We both are trying to be positive people.
Yeah.
And, you know, obviously, I still respect opinions. I want to say this now. I know it's at the end. Maybe I'll cut this and put it at the beginning, too. Mm-hmm. If you love any of the movies on this list, there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
I don't want to discount your opinion in that way. These are just my opinions. I just was let down by this movie. But if you love it and you got enjoyment out of it, hell yeah. I'm so glad you did. I want that for people. Like, I want you to go into every movie you're excited about and love it. That would be awesome. Just for me, that didn't happen with these movies. Yeah. We'll have to get together and think about what we're going to do for episode 5, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, man. Yeah. Hell yeah.
This is going fast. Like, I'm really enjoying doing this, getting out of the horror realm. I mean, we do still talk about horror. It's not like horror is off limits.
Right. However, it's just not the focal point.
Exactly. And like, I fucking love talking about this stuff. So we are going to cut it there.
Maybe I was thinking like top 5 movies that you know are bad, but you love them anyway.
Oh, dude, I could make that list so fast.
I know, me too.
I could rattle. You give me 2 minutes while I have a drink of water, I could rattle that list off. That's the next week right there.
It'll be freaking fantastic.
Guilty pleasure movies.
Yes, it'll be freaking fantastic.
The Guilty Pleasure Podcast next week. Yeah, if y'all made it to this far in the podcast, once again, thank you so much for listening. Hope you have a good time. And hope you come back for the next one.
See you next time.
Later.
Peace.
Peace.